Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana. And we're here today with special guest, Iain Thomas, who's here to share with us his new book, What Makes Us Human? And Artificial Intelligence Answers Life's Biggest Questions. When international best-selling poet Iain Thomas's mother passed away, he struggled to find a way to talk to his young children about the death of their grandmother. So Iain began using ChatGPT and feeding it ancient works, poems, and stories to answer the questions of what it really means to be human. So let's welcome to the show, Iain Thomas.
Thank you for having me.
What a joy it is to have you here and to talk about this book. What inspired you to write this?
Unfortunately, the story behind why I wrote it, I think, starts with my mom passing away in 2020. I had a similar experience, I think, to a lot of people when the pandemic started, where she was terminally ill. She had cancer, and she was far away from me, and I couldn't be by her bedside. Or her deathbed, at least, when she passed. And it was my child's last grandparent. And it really had a profound effect on me. And, while I was going through the kind of trauma of this and dealing with that, I was also doing a lot of work as a creative artist and as a technologist using, artificial intelligence and different kinds of technological platforms. And in my experiments with artificial intelligence, I realized that I could create a series of almost spiritual interactions with this platform. And I think that was kind of inspired by my mom. My mom was a very spiritual person. And so I realized that I could take a passage from the Bible, I could take something from the Talmud, I could take a poem from Rumi, I could take something from Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, and all these different things that have given me comfort over the course of my life, and put them together as what you would call a series of prompts for this AI that I was working with called GPT-3, and then ask it a question. So I did that one night, and I asked the AI, how do I explain death to my children? And the response was profound and poignant and beautiful. And I asked it another question, and then another, and then another, all about, all these different challenges that we deal with on a daily basis. Why do we suffer? How do we overcome great challenges? And we collected the conversations, myself and my co-author, Jasmine Wang, into this book called What Makes Us Human. So it's effectively this conversation with the spiritual texts using artificial intelligence.
Well, I'm so sorry for your loss. It's never easy losing somebody we really love. What are some of the other profound questions that you asked?
I think one of my favorites is we asked it, how should we treat other people? And the response was very short. And it said, you should treat them as if they are the universe. And then the AI generated its own next question, which was, how should I treat myself? And the response to that was, as if you are the universe. And I think that speaks to one of the kind of themes that emerged over the course of interacting with all this knowledge, was this idea that we are fundamentally connected to each other. That was something that just came up again and again and again. And, the other two themes, I think, were the idea of being present within every moment, of coming back to the present again and again and again. And if you ask the sum total of, spiritual texts in the world what the meaning of life is, the answer is apparently love, that we were put here to love ourselves and to love each other. And that's ultimately what everything is all about, which was quite a profound thing to have an AI tell me.
That's remarkable to have that. I don't know if I can call that a conversation, but that information coming back and forth.
I think, one of the most profound things was that response, to that very first question. How do I explain death to my children? I can read it for you quickly. It's in the book. Encourage them to celebrate the lives of other people. Tell them that the dead are not dead, not in the way we think of it. Tell them they live on as they are remembered. Tell them every goodbye is really a hello to a different way of being. Tell them they are loved and will always be loved. Tell them they never have to feel alone. Never. Tell them the world is magical and mysterious and strange. Tell them they are part of the mystery and the magic and the beauty of it. So previous to this, I'm also lucky enough to be a best-selling poet as well, and so I could kind of see the poetic value in what was happening during these different interactions, and it's just been this really fascinating engagement.
What is something that was kind of unexpected that came from this work?
I think those different themes, that was unexpected. I think, one of the strange things as well was the fact that the AI would come up with its own questions as well, because what AI is really good at is kind of predicting and creating patterns. And so we would give it this pattern of questions and answers from these different texts, and then it would suggest its own questions. So if we asked it, what is the meaning of life? It would, add on to it. Well, here's one answer. And then, another question would be, why do we suffer? Or, similar things in that kind of vein. And so it was this really kind of generative process in terms of a conversation. And then I think further to that, it was bizarre to have this conversation with a computer, effectively. And I think that's kind of what's really fascinating about it, that something so spiritual and so human can come from this technology. And I think, we're all having a really big conversation around artificial intelligence right now, I think. And I think where I'm most excited about the technology is what we can do that's new. I think, there's a lot of conversation around it's going to take jobs, it's going to automate all these different things. And there's certainly a lot of things that we should be concerned about and we should be speaking about. But I also think it's going to give us the chance to interact with media and culture and all these different things in all these different ways that we've never been able to before. What I've effectively done with the book is I've been able to have a conversation with a whole bunch of other books. And I think that's fascinating. And I think the way that we read, the way that we watch movies, the way that we listen to music, I think is probably going to change over the next few years in terms of what this technology enables. And so I think that's really fascinating.
With the books that you fed the AI, now is specific books that were mostly about life or have that positive framing of life?
Yes, I think, what me and Jasmine, my co-author, did is we looked for books that kind of captured a sense of awe, that spoke to, something that reminded us of what made us human, I guess. The way it works with GPT-3 is you don't actually have to, copy and paste the entire book and put it in. You can literally boil it down to the individual passages and sentences that you want to connect with and want to speak to. So, from the Bible, we took a passage about, love does not keep a record of wrongs. Love is patient, love is kind. And, we found all these different things that spoke to us. And so, yes, it was overwhelmingly positive.
I was really impressed because you're asking a lot of questions that people just have today, like, am I alone in the universe? And I love how the AI answered saying, we are not alone. The whole creation is friendly to us and conspires to help us. And it's just, I thought it was beautiful how that was all put together.
Yes. Working with this technology is a lot like working with a 3D printer, where there are these profound, poignant responses. Sometimes it's a little bit incoherent. Sometimes it's repetitive. Sometimes it's not quite there. But what you can do as as an editor, I guess, or as a curator of this, is you can look for those things that speak to you and you can go, this feels right. And so I looked at that from my kind of professional poet, if there could be such a thing, kind of space, and said, like, that's something that just speaks to me, and I think that'll speak to a lot of different people. And so we were lucky to find a lot of answers like that.
I could see how you brought that together to bring this flair of poetry in this book, and it's just beautiful the way that that was done, and it really covers a lot of topics that I think a lot of people just want to pick up a book and read about.
I think so. I think, the way that we did it is that the questions come from personal experience. So if I was having a frustrating day, I would, ask it, how do I overcome frustration, or how do I, feel connected? And it would suggest, like I've said, like its own questions in response to that. And further to that, we went out to the community around my work, and we said, if you could ask the universe one question, what would you ask? And so we got all these these really fascinating questions from a broad range of people. And so we have questions and answers about, how do I attain abundance, or what should I do with my hands, what should I do with the life that I've been given, the career that I've been given. And so we really try to kind of look at life from a lot of different perspectives.
It really is, in many ways, a kind of a how-to book, to view things in many ways. Because, I mean, you do have so many questions here. What is a healthy spirituality? What must I do? Where can I turn when the pain becomes too much to bear? And so you talk about all these different things that are is there an afterlife? That is, I think, a lot of questions that people today, they have questions about.
Yeah. I think, that's what we were trying to do, is we were trying to say, if we could sit with this guru, this moment that contained all of the different spiritualities within the world, and just ask it all these questions, we tried to be really thorough in terms of what we were asking it. I think what I would like to speak to is what I often get asked, I think because of the title of the book, is, like, what makes us human? I understand that there is a response in the book that is quite beautiful and interesting. But I think over and above that, what I've come to discover the more I work with artificial intelligence within the space is that intent, meaning, and purpose are the things that fundamentally make us human, and that are the things that separate us from, technology and mechanical things. An AI cannot have intent, it can't have purpose, and it can't have meaning, but we can give it those things, and we can discover things about ourselves. There was a really fascinating thing that happened a few months ago where a Google engineer was let go because he thought that their AI, a large language model called Lambda, was sentient. And he thought that it was perhaps asking him for help, and it wanted individual rights. And when I was interacting with GPT-3, I both did and did not feel like there was some kind of sentience behind it. And what I mean by that is, I don't think that AI is conscious. I don't think that it has feelings. But what I did sense behind all the different answers was that I was speaking to the history of mankind in a way that we've never been able to speak to before. And so I think what's really fascinating about that is that you're kind of speaking to this choir that's made up of every wise person that has ever written something down. And I think so when people sense a sentience behind AI, what they're sensing is all of us. And so that's what I'm really fascinated by. And I think as we go through this technological revolution that's happening now, we're going to discover more and more about ourselves, more and more about how we're connected, and more about what's possible in the future.
Yeah, there's so much to be learned there. It's just remarkable. And thank you for answering that. I wasn't sure if that's how to really address that, but I think that's why you have this book, is that people are able to look at these questions and ask different things of their lives.
Exactly.
And where can our listeners connect with you and be part of your community and learn more about your work?
If you search for real Iain S. Thomas, that's real REAL, Iain spelled IAIN, Thomas, you will find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all the usual places. And I'm always happy to connect with people, answer questions, and speak more to them.
Well, Iain, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you, Iain. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new book, What Makes Us Human? And artificial intelligence answers life's biggest questions. What Makes Us Humans available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all indie retailers. And if you don't see it on the shelf, just ask for them to order, and please support our indie bookstores. On that note, we're going to pause here for a quick moment, and we'll be right back after these messages. I'd like to thank Jason Eastwood at Guitarfulness for sharing his inspiring music and talent with us. His music is known worldwide for cultivating atmospheres of harmony, inner peace, and clarity. Visit Jason's website at guitarfulness.com. Join his newsletter, be part of his community, and download his music. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.